Welcome back to the Aubergine Chef. Today we're going to be making a super easy recipe, granola scones. Now, I typically like to use the Kashi brand of granola, just because the way their clusters are, they're a little bit more compact and they don't have flakes in them. I don't like to use flakes, granola with flakes for this recipe. Plus, they have some really good flavors too. Typically, I usually make it with the Mountain Medley one. It has, I think, cranberries. No, it definitely has cranberries. I can't remember what else, but it's really, really good. I'm going to try the Cocoa Beach variety today and see how it comes out. It should be fine. I can't imagine why not. Now these granola scones are great for bake sales and stuff like that where you don't have air conditioning because, well, they don't need to be refrigerated for one. And they don't lose their shape or anything like that. I mean, you know, most people know what a scone is. A scone is just like a really dense, crumbly, kind of cakey, more like a biscuit, breakfast pastry. And typically, scones will be like $1 to $2 in the grocery stores. But with this recipe, it's really good for freezing right before you bake it. So that way, every day, you can have fresh baked granola scones right from your home, and you can save a lot of money because you made it yourself. And it's really, really easy, so you can make it like all the time, even from scratch. So, why don't we go ahead and get started? Now I'm actually going to do this recipe in grams, just because they're pretty small measures. This is one of those recipes that I found online and I had to convert it. You can find a lot of great recipes online, it's just you got to know what to look for. And you know, sometimes you just got to try it and see how it works. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then try to adjust it. But this one was pretty good. You know, without adjusting anything really. Alright, so we need 400 grams of all-purpose flour. Okay. Now, before I go any further, I forgot to mention that in the refrigerator I have a little over 2 sticks. It's 2 sticks and 2 tablespoons of butter that's been cut up into cubes, kind of like in our last episode. This about maybe like a half of an inch by a half an inch by a half an inch cubes. And that comes to, let's see, 4, 8, about, I'd say about 9 ounces of butter. Okay, so now we need cornmeal. We need 43 grams. We need 106 grams of sugar. Eight grams of baking powder. And just a pinch of salt. Okay, let's bring this over to the mixer. Okay, now we just want to mix this together first to get all the dry ingredients blended in and get everything nice and even. Okay, that's nice and mixed together and blended now. Now before I add the cold butter, I just want to say that I have 187 grams of heavy cream set aside, and I have 257 grams of granola set aside, ready to go into the bowl. Now you want to use cold butter when you make scones because you want big chunks of butter to be scattered throughout the scones. You don't want it to be perfectly even and almost like cake or cookie batter or however you want to look at it. You want it to be really rustic looking, very broken, very uneven, and that's going to give it that characteristic flaky, or not, crumbliness, and just that really good buttery taste in every bite. So let's go ahead and add the butter. Okay, now we're just going to mix it until it just comes together. As you can see, a lot of the butter has been broken down, but we also have a good number of pieces that are still together and still whole. So that's where we want to be, because we're still going to add some more ingredients in anyway, but it's also going to give us that characteristic scone flavor that I was telling you about, scone flavor and texture. Okay, so go ahead and add the granola. Remember, this is 257 grams of granola. And the heavy cream. The heavy cream, this is 187 grams. Okay, and we're just going to mix this until it just comes together. Okay, so now that everything is nice and moistened by the heavy cream, it made a nice dough. Let's go ahead and take this off the mixer and bring it over to the table, and we'll go ahead and shape it. Okay, make sure you put some flour on your table before you put the dough out. What you want to do is you want to divide it into three even pieces. So let's see. And then what you want to do with these pieces is you want to make 3 discs that are about 1 inch thick. So just go ahead and shape it with your hands. Okay, now you want to go ahead and cut the dough. What you want to do is you want to cut it into quarters, and that'll give you a nice triangle shape. You can also cut it in half if you want a bigger scone. I find that quarters are just a nice size piece to deal with. Okay, now that they're all cut up, the next thing you want to do is bring them onto a sheet pan. Okay, the scones won't spread hardly at all, so you don't have to worry about putting them too close together, but you do want them to be able to, you know, have some space in between each piece. Okay, now you want to take some of the leftover heavy cream and just brush each piece as if you were going to egg wash it. And this is going to provide moisture, and it's also going to provide a little bit of flavor. We're also going to sprinkle some sugar on top. Now if you have sanding sugar, medium grain sugar, coarse sugar, whatever, that's what you would put on top. You can also use granulated sugar, it's fine. You won't have as much of a texture as, you know, the medium grain sugar will, but there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Now you need to take some granulated sugar or some sanding sugar and just sprinkle it on top. Okay, now the scones at this point aren't really ready to go into the oven. You need to let them refrigerate overnight. If you're going to freeze them, this would be a good point to freeze the scones. You can also freeze them after they've been already baked. You can just warm them up in the oven, however you want to do it. If I had a choice, I'd probably freeze them now, just because it'll be a nice
it'll be a little bit more fresher, and it won't have sat in the freezer as a already baked product. And I feel like already baked product gets freezer burned a little bit easier than dough. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But anyway, so let's go ahead and put this in the refrigerator overnight, and then what we're going to do is we're going to bake it in the oven at 400 degrees for about 15 to 18 minutes. Now, notice that I used double pans, like I usually do for most of my products, and that's because these scones tend to get burnt on the bottom. So just keep that in mind. Another thing you can do is put it on the medium rack in your oven. And so yeah, so we'll go ahead and put this in the refrigerator, let it refrigerate overnight, and when you next see it, it'll be all finished and baked off. Okay, so our scones came out of the oven this morning. I went ahead and baked them at 400 degrees. It actually took closer to 40 minutes this time. I'm not really sure why. I have an extra sheet pan in there to help balance out the heat, so maybe the double sheet pan plus that sheet pan on the lower rack may have caused the heat to disperse more slowly. I'm not sure what it was. It usually doesn't take 40 minutes, but it did. And they actually came out really nice. They're not too dark on the bottom. They're perfectly, the perfect color on the bottom. And they're nice and crumbly, and they've got like a nice, sweet, not really crisp, but it's got like this almost like a coating on the top from the sugar we put on top. Now, of course, if you use medium grain sugar, you'd have that more of a crunchy texture on top. And I do recommend getting it. I just don't have it on hand because I really don't need it that often. Although, you know, last episode I could have used it, and this episode I could have used it. So I'm guessing it might be in my best interest to start investing in medium grain sugar. So anyway, like I said, this is a great item for bake sales, for anywhere you don't really have refrigeration, because they can withstand high temperatures and they won't like fall apart or droop or melt or anything like that. But I mean, it's perishable, so you don't want to like, you know, keep bringing it out in the heat, So, and it's also great because you can leave it at room temperature. You can warm it up in the oven to have a hot scone again, and it's great with like jams and jellies, or however you want to serve it. I mean, like, if you like scones, you're going to like this recipe. And it was so easy, right? I mean, this is basically going to be one video. I mean, with YouTube's new 15-minute policy, it's going to be one video, and you guys are going to be able to see how easy it is to make scones for breakfast every day. If you have a supply in your freezer, completely frozen, you just pop in the oven, when you're getting a shower, and then when you come out of the shower, your house smells like scone. You got a scone ready for the day. So anyway, remember, the Aubergine chef, demystifying desserts one recipe at a time.